G'day, I'm Paul. So don't confuse that logo there for Aston Martin. It's Genesis, which is the luxury arm of Hyundai. And this is an all-new car for them. It is incredibly important. It's called the GV70. It's important because it's an SUV. I know how much you guys like those. But it's also important because it competes in that sort of entry-level luxury SUV set. And a lot of people are spending money on those at the moment because they're not traveling, they've got spare cash to burn, and they want a nice luxury SUV to get into. This right here is the top of the tree. It's the GV70 3.5T Sport all-wheel drive, which means it's got a twin-turbo V6 under the bonnet. It's priced at just under $85,000. This also has the luxury pack, which adds extra on top of that. I'll run you through that later on. But if that's too expensive, the entire range kicks off with the entry-level 2.5 litre, which is priced at just over 65 grand. This competes with things like the Mercedes-Benz GLC, the BMW X3, and the Audi Q5. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you can use the time codes up on the screen there, or simply use the chapters below if you're on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. That's going to tell you every single time we review something new and fresh. Okay, let's talk exterior as it starts raining. Sorry about that, and the wind. This is available in 10 exterior colours, and they're all free of charge except the matte colours. They're an additional $2,000. I love matte colours because they really just make a car like this pop, and it just looks sensational with all these dark highlights down the bottom there. So big fan of that. So big proudly worn Genesis emblem up the top there. Down here, the Sport comes with these blacked out sections, so you have that sort of shadow finish on the grille, and I think it looks fantastic. It's got 3D elements to it, and just behind it there you can see the active vanes that open and close to either heat up or cool down the engine as required. You've got a camera in there for the 360 camera, and then a bottom section here that exposes another cooling element. Across the side here you've got ducts here that shoot out the side, full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. The luxury pack also gets adaptive headlights. You can see here with the headlight they've split it up, and that follows the rest of that Genesis theme. We've seen that on the GV80 as well. It's just their signature, and I think it'll continue as they release new models. Around the side here, have a look at these wheels, 21 inches. They are whoppers on fairly low profile tyre as well. So I'll be interested to see how this rides, because it does have adaptive damping, but unless they've gone to a lot of effort here with the tuning, this could be quite a firm ride. In terms of braking, you have 4 piston calipers and a 360mm rotor. Keep in mind, twin turbo V6, this thing will get along pretty quickly, so you need a big set of stoppers to pull it up there. I like this wheel design as well. There's little carved out sections here that give it that aerodynamic and sporty look. Have a look up here as well. There's crease lines that run around the car here, and I think they really emphasize all of the design elements. And I'm not a designer myself, but I just love the fact how that bonnet overlaps the side there and you've got that hard edge on it. I think that is a really cool setup. Indicator built into that wing mirror, another camera on the side there. You've got a panoramic sunroof, privacy glass, more of that shadow finish along the side. Around the back, you've got these really cool LED lighting elements along there here as well. And these look cool at night time because they really just make this thing stand out. It looks like a spaceship at night time. All-wheel drive badge, dual exhaust pipes. Now with the exhaust pipes, the non-V6 models get these strange looking vertical pipes there, and not a huge fan of them. I think this is a really nice, classy looking setup and kind of signifies that you're packing some V6 punch there as well. So let me know what you think about the design. Do you think it looks good? Do you think it looks better than the bigger GV80? Or do you reckon this is a bit of a miss in terms of design? Let me know in the comment section. So we are inside the GV70. We'll kick off with the key first. So here it is. You've got lock, unlock, boot. You've got a button here for remote start. You also have the remote park feature, which creeps the car forwards or backwards out of tight parking spaces. Then the Genesis logo on the back and this sort of rubberized key. Proximity sensing, so you leave that in your pocket. Then once you're inside, you have this really nice looking start button that kind of looks like a glass cover. Yeah, have a look at this interior. It is absolutely premium. This kind of feels like a Maybach instead of an entry-level premium SUV. They really have taken it up a notch. And I will caveat here that this interior, we have the luxury pack as an option on this car. So some of the stuff that I mentioned might not actually be standard, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, Napa leather across the dashboard there. You've got this Alcantara lining along the rest of the car. it just looks $1,000,000, even though you're not paying $1,000,000. And that carries over to the seats as well. You've got that quilting finish with perforations, and then instead of being black, it's like this dark blue color with red stitching that carries over to the seat belts as well. Then on top of that, the Genesis interior lighting game is very strong. Here on the doors, you've got these beautiful things that light up at night time, and there's just a fantastic ambience inside the cabin. It makes you feel right at home. Now, what about the touch points? Really soft, and that is pretty soft over there. How soft is it? Well, we've got our gyrometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to other cars that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Now, build quality. What's it like, given you're paying so much more than another Hyundai or Kia product? Look, that's a bit loose, which is disappointing. I would have expected that to be much more solid than that. But the rest of this feels pretty good in my opinion. Now let's move on to infotainment. When I first got in this car and switched it on, I was like, whoa, look at that screen. It is absolutely huge. So 14.5-inch display. It's super, super wide, and I don't know, it's so imposing. It really just takes your attention when you hop inside the car, and I think it looks fantastic. So big tick there. And it's all controlled using this controller down here. This is another thing that just looks way over the top for something in this price point. It's like it feels like a glass sort of iDrive-esque controller. It really is quite a special looking thing. And you use this to transition between all of your menu items. So in terms of radio, you have AM, FM, and DAB+ digital radio, and it's all powered by a 16-speaker Lexicon by Harman sound system. So you did ask me about rating these sound systems. We don't really have a measure like we do the gyrometer, but according to my ears, the sound system is bloody awesome. So it has so many speakers here that really you are bound to find one speaker that is going to make your ear very happy when you crank the tunes. It has plenty of bass and quite sort of clear treble as well. So very impressive sound system. In terms of connectivity, you can use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Both are wired though, unfortunately, not wireless. So I'll show you what Android Auto looks like first. There it is. So not a full screen integration, which is, I don't know, just a little bit silly. I would have liked to see the thing take up the entire screen, but it is nice and fast, and it transitions through these menus very quickly. But it really only does take up half the screen, because this kind of does nothing there. And then you have the internal satellite navigation on that side. And this is what Apple CarPlay looks like. It just looks massive in comparison. There you go. It's a much, much bigger setup. But I've said this before, that it is frustrating. You can't just use the right on your iDrive controller to get across to the other side of the screen. You've got to really scroll through all of those menus. This is a touch screen as well if you don't want to use that. In terms of other things you've got on here, you've got voice memos, you have settings for the vehicle, the sounds of nature to put the kids to sleep, quiet mode as well, so you can just have audio up the front here and you're not annoying the kids in the back there. You can also get visualizations on the terrain mode. So when we go for a drive, I'll run you through the different drive modes, but you can see here that when you do select them, it gives you few extra bits and pieces and then animations for your muddy, rutted or uneven terrain journey. Ahead of the driver is a 12.3-inch display. So this has all your critical car functions. You can also change the contents of the center of the display. But with this luxury pack, it actually gives you the ability to make this 3D. So currently it's off, and this is going to be pretty much impossible to see on the camera, but I'll run through medium and then maximum. To me, it's actually much sharper with it just off and in its standard view, as opposed to the 3D view. So yeah, I don't really see the point in it, to be honest. Now, what about safety? You have front and rear AEB with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You have an auto dimming rear vision mirror. Over on the wing mirror, you have a blind spot monitor, but in addition to that, you also have a camera built into here every time you activate the indicator. I'll show you what that looks like when we go for a drive. You have a lane departure warning and a lane keeping assistant, along with the semi-autonomous steering function. You've got a safe exit assistant to prevent you from opening the door if there's another vehicle coming. You have a reminder to check the back seats if you've left the kids in there. You know, people have been doing this lately, and I'm glad that there is a reminder there for those that genuinely don't check if their kids are in the back seat of the car when it's hot. You have a junction assistant that stops you going across an intersection if there are other vehicles coming. There's rear cross traffic alert. And finally, on the parking front, you have front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Here it is here. Look at that, that's actually really impressive. It's super high resolution. The top-down view is okay, but not amazing, but you can change between views here. So you can see down the back flanks of the car, and then you also have a top-down view at the rear. It's pretty useful if you are mounting a trailer or something like that. You need better visibility. You also have a 3D mode. Have a look at this. We can race around the car there. So this stuff's more of a gimmick because, as you can tell, I don't know, I can't really see anything there. The box that we have next to the car looks like it's a pancake as opposed to a box. So these things are more of a gimmick than anything, but it is cool that it still has that regardless. And then you also have that automatic parking assist feature as well. Righto, practicality, and we'll start with connectivity. Down here you've got 2 USB points and a Qi wireless phone charger. In here you have a 12-volt socket. In terms of storing your phone, you can pop it down there on your wireless phone charger, or it can simply live in the cup holders. Cup holders, let's see how they go with our bottle. No dramas holding that in. You've got rubber feet on the bottom and then also teeth on the sides. And then the bottle easily fits into the door. We'll try to fit our big bottle in. Let's see if that works. No, that's not going to fit in there. So just small bottles only. Then here you have a really deep center console that goes all the way in there. And then you have a little trinket tray up the top. You have a generously sized glove box and also a sunglasses holder up the top. What about your comfort features? So dual zone climate control up the front here. You have more up the back that I'll run through shortly. Heated and cooled seats. You have a heated steering wheel. You also have a massage function, which I'm a really big fan of. I love this display as well. That is another high resolution screen there that activates when you start sort of moving things around, and it's got capacitive touch. So as you push your finger on it, it gives you a little bit of feedback on it as well. So really impressive setup there. In terms of the seats themselves and comfort, yeah, this is a really good setup. So 18-way power adjustment as part of that luxury pack with the massage that I mentioned. When you do put it into sport mode, the seats hug you in tightly, and it kind of makes you feel like a bit of a race car driver. They have a multitude of sort of adjustment options there. Your steering wheel also offers tilt and reach adjustment electrically. Now you may have noticed as well that the steering wheel looks completely different to the GV80 wheel. The GV80 wheel just has this strange design to it that people either love or hate, whereas this is more a traditional design, and I think this looks much better. It's got the third sort of spoke down the bottom here, and it just sits nicely in the hand with easily accessible paddle shifters. So it's a really good setup, and I think it just looks way better than the GV80 wheel. But in terms of our reach test, most of this stuff is okay to reach, but you do have to lean forward if you want anything here, and you absolutely have to lean forward if you need to use the touch function of that infotainment display. Okay, second row of the GV70. I actually have a surprising amount of room here. So my driver's seat is pretty far back, but I still have a decent amount of knee room. Toe room's great, and headroom is excellent. It's a really nice place to be seated too. You get the same style of seats as you do up the front there. So very premium look with that red stitching contrasting the navy blue. You've got Mac pockets in the back of the seats. This is where your third zone of climate control is. You also have access to heated seat controls for the 2 outboard seats, 2 USB slots down the bottom here. And then in the center, you have 2 cup holders. Easily hold our bottle there, and this fits or should fit nicely inside the doors. I like this. You have manual blinds for your second row, 2 ISOFIX points on your outboard seats, and have a look at this. You have the ability to shift your passenger seat out of the way to grant yourself a little bit more leg room in the second row. Okay, what about cargo space? Now, no buttons around here. There is just one under there, which I think is a really good placement. Give that a push, your boot opens. So you have a little over 500 litres of cargo space in this configuration here. Under here you also have a space saver spare tyre and then storage for your cargo blind as well. Off to the side here you've got some hooks, a 12-volt outlet. You've got odds and ends like this cargo netting. You also have these two, so I'll show you what's in this. It is your roadside kit. So you crack that open, you've got yourself a set of gloves, a poncho, a towel if you want to have a shower on the side of the road. You've got a flashlight. What else have we got here? Hand cleaner. This is a really cool setup. So if you are ever unfortunate enough to break down or need to change a tyre or something, they've pretty much got you covered with that kit. And then you've got a first aid kit there as well. Let's have a look at what it's like with our bags in. So laptop bag there, we'll see how this fits. There you go, not a drama at all. Get that out of the way, and I'll show you what it looks like when we drop the second row. So getting rid of these two seats expands the space to a little over 1,600 litres. And if our first aid kit, the roadside thing, weren't there, that would be a fairly flat load floor. So we are on the road in the GV70. Powering this particular version is a 3.5 litre twin turbocharged V6 petrol engine. It makes 279 kilowatts of power and 530 newton meters of torque. And that's all mated to a 8-speed automatic torque converter transmission. And it uses all-wheel drive as well with a rear bias. So it's constantly sending torque to the rear with dabbles that are going to the front axle. So how does all that feel behind the wheel? Well, this engine is deceiving because it's incredibly quiet in here. Even when it's running, sometimes you need to check the tacho, which goes in reverse, by the way, to see whether it's actually doing anything. But then when you do get stuck into it, you can hear it doing stuff. It actually sounds pretty much exactly like the Kia Stinger used to before they fitted it with a sports exhaust. So what does the gearbox actually feel like? Well, the engine's smooth. The gearbox is pretty good. It's not the snappiest gearbox in the world, but when you do lean into it, it does respond and sort of gets up and starts moving. Let's just give it a kick here while it's napping. Yeah, look, it could be quicker, and I think that's the issue with this in-house transmission from the Hyundai group. It is just a little bit lazy sometimes, especially when mated to this engine. This is an engine that has a lot of torque, and you really just want to be able to feel it, and you don't feel it until you get properly stuck into it. In terms of fuel economy, 11.3 litres per 100 kilometres is the official figure, but as you can see down there, we are currently averaging 12 litres per 100 k's. Keep in mind, we have been doing a fair bit of highway driving and a little bit of performance testing today, so that figure's probably a little higher than what you would expect it to normally be. And if you are filling this up with fuel, it takes a minimum 95 RON premium unleaded, so it'll be slightly more expensive than equivalent cars that will run on 91. Now, in terms of your drive modes, you have a switch here that allows you to go between your drive modes and your terrain modes. So if you push it down, it takes you to terrain, and you can choose snow, mud, or sand. That varies your stability control depending on which option you choose. But if you flick it the other way, you've got Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Custom. So there's quite a few controls there. Now in comfort mode, the adaptive dampers, they really soak up bumps beautifully. You would never know this was on 21-inch alloy wheels. Even with consecutive bumps, you can feel it just soaks them up beautifully. Part of that is thanks to this camera mounted up the top here. It's able to read the road ahead. It'll determine that you do have imperfections coming up, and then it will adjust your suspension accordingly so that you're not crashing over things regardless of the drive mode that you're in. Now, what's it like if you put it into sport mode? Let's give this a little crack here. We've got our little corner coming up. It is incredibly wet outside, so I don't expect this to be amazing. It's actually not too bad. It can understeer and then it can oversteer, so depending on where you catch it in its cycle, it's either going to push you wide or try and send the rear end around. But it's quite progressive, so it's not going to catch you by surprise. It will just sort of creep up on you, but you will know that it's coming. Also call out with the all-wheel drive system that it has a limited slip differential on the rear. So the front really is just aiding you when you need it, as opposed to being a proper sort of full-time all-wheel drive system that's always doing things. It is just there to help when you lose traction at the rear end. Now, how quick is it from 0 to 100? We put it up against our stopwatch, and this is how it went. It is deceiving though, because it doesn't feel like you're going fast, but then when you look at the speedo, you're going at a fair rate of knots. Now you can hear that beeping. That is the most annoying lane departure warning system in the world, so I'm going to kill that quickly. I found that with Hyundai and Kia cars, it just doesn't really work that well. It can't predict corners sort of efficiently enough, and it sort of pinballs between them, and then the lane departure warning just constantly goes off, and then when you sort of need it to work, it doesn't know that you're still in the lane. So yeah, it's just not a very good system, and I think it needs a little bit of refinement. Okay, road noise, what's it like? Well, for a luxury vehicle, you would expect it to be quiet, and it is dead silent in here. I like it. So as you truck along, even on coarse chip country roads, it's soaking it up beautifully, and you really don't hear much at all in the cabin. Now, what about visibility? Being an SUV, it can be a little bit compromised, but clear vision out the front there. The wing mirrors are a decent size. You've got a blind spot monitor built into them, but love this. Pop your indicator on and you get vision down the side there, and that is a really handy feature. Rear visibility is okay. It's quite a narrow envelope, and then you'll also find that it can be a little compromised about the C-pillar to see exactly what's going on over there, but you do have your blind spot monitor and the camera as well to help you with your blind spots. It's worth pointing out as well that you have a brake towing capacity of 2,200 kilograms and a turning circle of 11.5 meters, which is pretty good for an all-wheel drive SUV. So the Genesis GV70, I'll tell you what, I don't often say this, but I was completely surprised by this. When I first saw it, I really wasn't expecting to like it that much. I just didn't love it in pictures, but in person, every single time I drive it, just something new impresses me about it. You know, whether it's the amount of attention it gets on the road or how cool that interior looks at night time, or even just the punchy V6. This is a really good engine combination with all-wheel drive for this car. It really has exceeded my expectations. So big tick, tick, tick. Why would you not buy it though? So I think the biggest alarm bells for me would be depreciation. I don't know what this is going to be worth in 5 years' time. If you buy a BMW or a Mercedes, it's kind of a given. You know what it's going to be worth. So I think they're trying to incentivize people to buy these by giving you guaranteed future value. They're doing free servicing. They're really sort of making the deal worthwhile. And in that regard, if you're willing to take a punt, I just don't know why you would buy any of the competitors over this if you put that stuff to the side. It really just ticks all of the boxes. And if you have a small family or you really just need an SUV but don't want to go too crazy, this is where you need to be. So let me know in the comments section below, have you driven one of these? Were you as surprised as I was? I'm really keen for your feedback. My wife wants to get rid of our Tesla to get something bigger, and I really want to get another EV, but there's nothing bigger that's an EV that I would buy, and this is definitely very tempting. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel so you can find out every single time we do a new car review. But until next time, take it easy.